Britain is circulating a UN draft resolution calling for an immediate pause in hostilities in Sudan. Hopefully, they are also in time for the Muslim holy month of Ramadan. Sudan plunged into chaos last April when its military and the paramilitary rapid support forces began fighting a civil war. Now, over 25 million people in Sudan are veering closer and closer to famine. For more on the situation there, let's bring in our regional correspondent, Olviia Bizot, who joins me now live from Nairobi. Olviia, first of all, what is the humanitarian situation like in Sudan at the moment?
The humanitarian situation in Sudan is not looking good, and it's only getting worse. And most of the world are unfortunately turning a blind eye to what is going on in the country. The numbers are alarming. Tens of thousands of people have been killed since the war broke out almost a year ago now, and more than 8 million people have been displaced. It's the largest displacement crisis in the world at the moment. And as you mentioned, the World Food Programme has also recently published a report saying that if the conflict does not end soon, the country is going to be facing the world's largest hunger crisis. Currently, the UN agency has said 90% of the population are facing extreme levels of hunger. But the main challenge, or one of the biggest challenges at the moment in Sudan, is that aid is not getting into the country. The aid that is crossing the border into Sudan is often getting looted, while humanitarian workers are being attacked and their visas are being rejected, so they're not allowed into the country. It's also incredibly difficult to report about what exactly is going on in the country, as foreign journalists are not being granted visas. That's why I'm reporting about this situation here in Nairobi as opposed to from Sudan. Local journalists who are trying to report on what is going on in the country are getting intimidated. There have been lots of attacks against local journalists, and some of them have even been killed. So essentially, the world's largest humanitarian crisis is taking place mostly behind closed doors. And that's why it's so important to talk about what is going on in Sudan as much as possible.
It really is, Olviia, and thank you for your reporting on that, even from there in Kenya where you are. Let's talk a bit more about the political situation in Sudan. Now, the war began, just to remind everyone, April 15th between two warring generals. How is that situation evolving from a political standpoint, if at all?
Well, unfortunately, since the 15th of April of 2023, when the war broke out, there has been pretty much a political standstill. There have been numerous attempts of ceasefires, but so far, none of them have been successful. So how have we got to the situation that we're in today? To better understand, let's rewind a little bit. So in 2019, In 2019, there was a civil uprising which ousted the then leader of Sudan, General Omar al-Bashir, and then a transitional government was put in place. And in 2021, two men overthrew that government. Those two men were the head of the paramilitary rapid support forces known as Hemeti and the head of the army, Abdel Fattah al-Burhan. But those two leaders couldn't decide on which direction the country should take. They couldn't agree on that. So the war broke out on the 15th of April 2023. Now, since then, both leaders have been on various regional tours, and they say that these regional visits are aimed at finding solutions to the ongoing conflict. But analysts say that the real reason of these various international visits is to secure political legitimacy and regional support. Now, what's complicated in Sudan now is that it's not only becoming a regional conflict, but it's also becoming a global one as well, with the armed forces being supported by countries including Iran, that's supporting the army with drones, and the rapid support forces being supported by countries like the United Arab Emirates that are providing financial support and ammunition. So analysts say that the only way that that long-term peace is going to be achieved in Sudan is if both warring sides meet at the negotiating table together. But unfortunately, that's looking increasingly unlikely. And some say that the possible and a more likely situation is a sort of Libya scenario where the country would be split between the two warring factions.